Sometimes I like to go up to the Arctic Circle and hang out with walruses. Sup? Other times I like to go to the beach and wear my tie. Now I might be kind of overdressed for the beach, but if I went to the Crab Nebula to hang around, I would actually be underdressed. Now, I don't want to talk about the Crab Nebula. I don't even know if this is the Crab Nebula. What I want to do, meet me back in the classroom, we'll talk about your project. Now the project that you're going to be doing is going to be a better version of what I'm doing right now. So what I'm going to do with you right now is to give you an overview of, or an example of, or both, of the project that I want you to be doing. So you'll do a better example or better version of this. But there's a few basic steps that are going to have to be taking place. Number one is you're going to be doing some research. And there's going to be some time set aside for that. You might want to do more. But when you're doing your research, you're going to look for good information. Then you're going to plan and build some sort of presentation. It doesn't have to be a PowerPoint, although that's what I've used. And I think that's what most people are, let's say, comfortable with, but it doesn't have to be. There are other ways of doing this. Then you're going to actually record your video. So the project is to make a video, and you're going to have to then record it. And then lastly, you're going to edit the video. And what I want to do right now is go through each one of these steps and kind of break it down into a little bit more detail. So, research. Number one thing is keep in mind that you are going to be giving a lesson. So you need to have good information, lots of information, complete information. On the other hand, you don't want to have so many details that it's way above our head. Keep it at the level that we're at. How do you find that balance? That's your job. Figure it out. You want to have some good pictures because you don't want to just stand up and look at a bunch of text, or we don't want to just sit there and look at a bunch of text. You also want to keep it interesting. I mean, think about it this way. If you're just going to stand up there and be boring, I could have done that in class the regular way. Make it interesting. Find a story. Find those little tidbits, those little anecdotes, or examples of these things that are happening that make it interesting, that make the news, that would keep us watching. Then you're going to plan and build. Now again, as I mentioned, most people are probably going to go with a PowerPoint because that's what they're kind of familiar with and that's what they're comfortable with, but it could be anything, and I'll explain why it could be anything in a minute. You could just gather a few pictures and then you and your partner stand up there with poster board or flip chart or chart paper or just puppets for all that goes. You can do a Prezi or something like that. And I'll explain how we're going to do this in a minute, but I'm going to go on the assumption that most people are doing PowerPoint. You want to figure out, because you're making a video, you're going to have one person on screen, two people on screen, both at the same time, one then the other. And that's important when you're making a PowerPoint because you don't want to cover up the words. That's important information. So we want to be able to see that at all times. Then, tied into the pictures, how big do you want the pictures? Do you want them full size? Do you want them small size? Again, we're going to be viewing this so on a screen, but you might end up watching it at home on a phone for all that goes. So you want the pictures to be big enough. You don't have to have text on every slide. How much text do you have? Short answer, not too much. And typically when students are doing a PowerPoint presentation, that's the first mistake they'll make, is lots and lots and lots of text. Don't do lots of text. You'll notice for all the talking I've done, I know I've done a lot of talking, there really hasn't been a lot of text up here. Important stuff, yes. A whole lot of blather, I do that. Not too much, I already said that. You'll notice I keep looking over here, and that's because I have a laptop over here, and that's actually part of the next one. But we'll come to that after a couple of tips. When you're doing this, please make sure you don't be that guy and have mistakes like that, because they're going to show up, and they're going to show up for the world. And then leave space for yourself. As I said before, if you are making a PowerPoint presentation, think about where you're going to be in that, because you're going to be right in the middle of it. If there's going to be two of you somewhere at some point, you need to know that so you can plan for that, and then you can plan also your presentation. And then finally, I would really strongly recommend a script, a script-ish. You don't have to have lines memorized. You don't have to have, exit left and stage right and all this other stuff, but you do want to know what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, so you don't stand up here stumbling over your words. And if you're going to have it on a piece of paper and you're reading it, make sure you know how to pronounce properly and confidently all those words, okay? And know your part. It'll make editing a whole lot easier. It'll make the video go a whole lot crisper. It'll make one take instead of 3, all those other good things. All right, so recording the video. Couple of things. I mentioned I've got a laptop over here. You're going to do that. So I'm expecting you to have something on a computer screen, PowerPoint. We're going to record that. So we're using screen capture software. There's a camera. Well, that's what you're viewing through right now. Behind me right now is a green screen, and that's why I can edit out or cut out all this other stuff. I also have a microphone right about there. So if you're having 2 people on screen at one time, we're going to have to, talk at the thing. I think it'll pick up sound pretty decently if you do. And I also have this unit. And this unit is a little remote control, so I can control what the slide is doing. And there's 2 options. I'm going to make stuff available so you can record on site. The problem with that is it probably won't be during class time. It's likely going to have to happen during lunch, although it won't take up a lot of time. If you record off-site, you do it at home. It doesn't have to be a green screen, although you can make up your own kind of green screen thing, and I'll tell you about that if you want to try that. If you do that, though, please make sure that you watch the timeline and that you bring the video to class when we need it. Really, really important. Okay. Editing. This is going to be time-consuming, but it's a really simple idea right now. The big thing for editing, though, is make sure that you understand that you have to work with good stuff to start with. No miracles. And don't overdo it with the editing, because you'll end up cutting yourself and clipping this, and the sound won't work out so well. After that, there's really not that much to it. It's going to be time-consuming. It's going to be a brand new experience for most of us, and I hope you enjoy it. And boy, I hope it's worthwhile, because otherwise it's going to be me teaching the stuff all over again. See you later.